Now, a UN expert today hailed the collective progress made in pursuing human rights for persons with albinism since the UN General Assembly officially recognized the 13th of June as International Albinism Awareness Day. This was all the way back in 2014, believe it or not. Now, 2024, do you want to do the math? What does it mark? Do we guess right? A decade since the launch of this Awareness Day. And to mark this occasion, the year's theme is 10 years of international awareness for albinism, a decade of collective progress. We're all working together, and this particular year invites the world to celebrate the strides just made within the movement, the renewed commitment for the future, highlighting the tireless efforts of groups from around the world, including Nigeria, and reflecting on the continued legal policy and practical changes still required to ensure the full and equal enjoyment of rights by persons with albinism. Take a look at this little clip that they put out on X, formerly known as Twitter, earlier today.
Ten facts about albinism. 1. In 2014, the United Nations General Assembly declared the 13th of June International Albinism Awareness Day. 2. Albinism is a genetic condition affecting melanin pigment production. 3. Albinism occurs worldwide, regardless of gender or ethnicity. 4. Albinism is a rare condition affecting approximately 1 in 15,000 people in Europe to 1 in 4,000 in African countries. 5. Persons with albinism often have fair complexion. Their eyes are never red, but rather often light blue or gray.
Now, in the spirit of creating awareness, as much as we speak on the challenges, we must also speak on how people are breaking barriers and boundaries regardless. My guest today speaks to this. He embodies this in every sense of the word. From 9 years in banking, finishing as a unit head, SME banking, then to film, acting. Damilola the Goldfish, as you popularly know him as, is breaking boundaries. He is a multiple award-winning banker and a 4-time award-winning actor. Graduated the New York Film Academy, LA, where he studied acting for film in 2016. Now, he burst into the limelight in 2017 as a leading man in the film The Tribunal with Omotola Jalade Kehinde. And now, I'm sure you're looking at him and like, I've seen him somewhere. Yeah, a 7-year career post-banking, 44 film works and appearances in total. He's been in Gangs of Lagos, and Nicolakwa Rise of the Spectre, and one of my favorite movies in the world, Adire. Joining me right now on Arise 360, the Goldfish, or should I say Bond, James Bond.
Well, that sounds absolutely appropriate. I hope the James Bond guys are actually watching. But it's good to be here. Really good to be here.
Absolutely, and I'm big on manifestation, so I feel like I really love how you're very consistent with talking about Bond. What's that dream for you? What exactly in the Bond spectrum do you want?
So the thing is, growing up, I was a James Bond fan to the core. I've seen all the 25 James Bond films, all of them from the first to the last one. So I actually identify with the guy. I like the guy. I like what he stands for. He's a knowledgeable guy. He can hold his own. He can do everything. He's a man's man, and I can tell you that 90% of the men in the world would love to be James Bond. But yeah. So I've always wanted to be an actor. And I knew eventually sometime I would go and chase my dreams despite what anybody thinks about it. And so far, so good. But I still believe that that's still my role of all time, to play James Bond. At the worst case scenario, maybe the villain in a James Bond movie. Okay. But I'm going to be in a James Bond flick. I know that.
You will. And when you are, we'll be like, yo, we said it on Arise. Now, speaking of today, I feel like I'm not very conventional with, let's talk about it, because we can't talk about it enough, right? But I also say that talking about it is not enough. So let's coin the word realities. Let's not just talk about let me not just say what are the challenges, what are the realities? This is something that you live with. This is who you are. But whenever we talk about it in isolation, like the International Day for the Awareness on Albinism, when we talk about it in isolation like that, what are some of the realities that you would like to let the world know about based on your personal experiences?
So far, so good. What I'd like to say is there's a reason why we specifically have this day. And it's also to bring awareness to the world on what people living with albinism, what they go through and what their life is like. Today is the day where we try to sensitize the world, try to let you know that people with albinism are just like everyone else. It's just, albinism is just an absence of melanin in the hair, the skin, and the eyes. Aside that, nothing else. All internal organs are the same for everyone. So this is where we come to let the world know that, look, these people exist and they must be, identified. We've been preaching inclusion. That there's been this stigmatization that has been there all along, because sometimes when people don't understand something, they can criticize it. So we're coming to the forefront to let you know that we're just the same as everyone else, and a particular disability doesn't stop you from chasing your dream or being who you are. And that's one of the things I try to embody and exemplify. I took a risk by going into the movie industry. When I was going to leave banking, which I left and went into the movie industry just like that, I quit my job and got into film. And there was a director who had once told me that, why do I want to be in film? That do I see any other albino in the industry? And I said, this is my dream. And so far, so good all my life, albinism has never stopped me from achieving anything. Either going to school, either talking to a lady I like, either going for what I want, either doing anything I want. So it hasn't stopped me. So this time it's not going to stop me. So I decided to step into the industry. And it's not been particularly easy, because there are times when, I also know that I'm not fit for every role. And that's just being honest.
What do you mean by you're not fit for every role?
So the thing is, so now every time I'm in a film, it says the story a little bit differently, because we cannot also take away the fact that this person is an albino. So the thing is, are you telling a story that has to do with albinism, or you are allowing this person live his own life? So what I've done with the characters I've played, unless a movie is specifically about albinism, I've learned to portray characters in such a way that you do not see the albinism, but you see the character.
Okay.
And this is what I'm preaching. I'm trying to preach to the world that even if directors think that I might not be fit for every film, it's the fact that I can get to that film and bring something absolutely amazing into it. So at the end of the day, one side may think that people with albinism are not fit for something, then people with albinism come around and show the world that I can do this. This doesn't stop me. This doesn't mean anything. What do I have here and what do I have here makes me fit for anything I want to do. So that's what we're preaching to the world. And it's tough, because it's like you're trying to convince people at a time. But one thing I've noticed is people can't argue with results.
Absolutely.
People can't argue with results. You can't do this, you can't do this. Once you do it, people are like, oh, you can do it. Oh, you did it good. He's going to do it again. And so that's how it's been.
That basically brings to the conversation on confidence, because I think one of the biggest problems is kind of like how they say no one is ever born with racism, but it's something that is acquired from societal norms, what you see and how you see people treat other people. Oh, this is a person who's different from me, so I'm gonna just move away a little. I think it's the exact same thing. There's a lot of children who are born with albinism, and in some way they just grow up feeling different because of the society that we are in. So at what point did you, because I imagine it was the same for you growing up. Quite. So at what point did you break away from that societal stereotype of this is who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be treated? Okay, so this is the good thing. I think one of the reasons why my life is the way it is I believe God himself wants me to be like a mouthpiece, like somebody who will help others climb this. The good things my parents did when I was growing up, because my parents are dark skinned, both of them. I've got two elder sisters who are dark skinned, then I got a younger sister who's fair like I am. Okay. So she's quite younger than I am. But when I showed up on the scene, one thing my parents did is they never treated me differently from my other siblings. We ate the same thing. All those things about albinos don't eat salt and all that, that's a myth. They don't go under the sun. No, that's not a myth. Oh, that's not a myth?
No, that's not a myth. Okay. Because there's no melanin. There's none at all.
You go under the sun, the sunscreen.
Yeah, I'm wearing sunscreen all the time. Like every 2 hours, I have to use that again. So my parents didn't treat me differently from other siblings. So I didn't feel different from my other siblings. Now, my mom, very wise woman. She was a school principal. Okay. So, when she gets home, she calls me Oyibo. When I was a small boy, she would sing that song, that Oyibo, Pepe. She would sing it for me, and then I'll be dancing to it. So then when I now go out and people, sing that to me, even till now, I find it as an endearment. So that's what she did for me that helped me. So as I was going through primary school, secondary school, and I was also talented, I could sing, I could rap, I could do that stuff. But that confidence of me having never felt different from my siblings continued. You know, there were many times, of course, when people will react wrongly. I mean, I tell you once that, I think it was Nancy Simmons show about, there was a lady who I was in love with one time, very long time ago, who said she couldn't marry me because of albinism. You know, it was a blow at that time, but, you know, I left.
What? That is so, the word I'm looking for is, I don't want to say, I want to say it in a way that it sounds good. I don't want to say uneducated, but ill-informed.
Quite very informed.
An ill-informed choice.
I mean, we're still friends, and I think so.
That's beautiful, but that's important, you know, to highlight the realities. Like, you know, her fear, would you say it was valid at the time?
I think the truth is, she spoke based on her knowledge and, you know, maybe that what other people would say syndrome, which is something that is there. We have to be honest about it that, look, while we're pushing for inclusion and, you know, Damilola is trying to be James Bond and is trying to bring everybody else, you know, and mentoring other people to work on their self-esteem and go and do it, the society still stigmatizes, people still stigmatize against what they don't understand. People still see, you know, would look at a person with albinism and say, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to associate with this person. It's still there. So it's fading off now, it's getting better, but down the line there are still people, or especially those who live in rural areas or who are not as educated and live in those kind of suburbs, or people like in Tanzania or East Africa, where it's rumored that if you get a part of a person living with albinism, you can make it to as juju for money and all those things. And frankly, those guys are still not on the Forbes list, so that means it doesn't work. So those things are still there, but that's why we have days like this, when we can all come out and celebrate ourselves, our uniqueness, our awesomeness, and the fact that we're angels amongst men.
I love the fact that you said our awesomeness. So now let's help some people understand. Let's do myth and just, you know, just squash. Like let's break some myths around albinism. So what are some things you've heard? For instance, I cannot marry a person with albinism. Is that a fact, or is that just a myth that we need to squash?
That's just a myth you need to squash, because the truth is, what makes a person is not the color of his skin, but his heart, his mind. Would you forgo a kind person, a loving person, a diligent person, a disciplined person, just because of the color of their skin? And also, you know, there are also different skin tones. People have those who are, you know, with all due respect, who have vitiligo. Would you say you're not going to...
I think they're so beautiful.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that we need to start looking at the world from the perspective, from God's perspective. God sees beauty in everyone. So when we start having that love in our heart and we can see the other person as a person to be loved, it will change perspective. So that's a myth.
That's a myth. What else would you say is another myth that we need to
squash? People really think that, you know, albinos can see at night. Like, oh, they can see at night, like they have X-ray vision or infrared or whatever. And I understand where that's coming from, because most of the time, when people with albinism are in the sun, they will squint because there's no melanin in the eye. But at night, when there's no sun, the eyes can open. So there's this myth that, oh, they see better. But actually, that's a myth. That's not possible.
Got it.
Yeah. So, albinos don't eat salt. That's a myth. Come on, imagine eggs without salt in it.
That
or beans
would be
without
tasteless.
salt in it. So that doesn't do anything to people living with albinism. People have said albinism is a product of, you know, when two partners make love, in the man and the woman, when they make love in the afternoon, right in the glare of the sun, which is absolutely ridiculous, but that's also a myth. You know, that is.
What?
I mean, that's really.
Are you kidding? People are saying these things.
I've heard stuff. Trust me. There people are saying that. I'm telling you. People say you go to the market and people say you go around and people actually think that it was in the afternoon. That people also believe that if you get a part of an albino's body you can use to make money, you can't. It wouldn't work. So we need to stop killing albinos, especially in places like Tanzania and East Africa. That is never going to work. That's a life. That's because some people are living with chopped limbs. That's absolutely very, very unfair. Also, somebody with albinism doesn't necessarily have to have an albino child, because sometimes the gene could be recessive or it could be dominant. For example, I'm a carrier of a recessive gene, so I'm very unlikely to have an albino child. So all those are myths. Fact is, internal organs for everyone in the world, either albino or not, is the same. So anybody, yes, you could do a heart transplant, a kidney transplant, it's exactly the same. Brain is the same. All internal organs are are the same.
Yeah.
So with that alone, know that a human being is a human being in totality. That means there is no stopgap. You can do anything.
Well, Damilola, you're breaking boundaries. Like I just said earlier, you've been in some of the biggest films over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years that has come out of Nollywood. So that's first of all proof of everything you've just said, the fact that this does not stop you from being who you are. And it's also because you've chosen to push and push. When you got your role in Anikulapo, how did that happen?
So so Kole Afolayan is someone I've worked with. I've been quite fortunate. I've worked with him. This is my 3rd time working with him.
Yeah.
We started in, so Kole Afolayan gave me my breakout movie in 2007.
Okay.
2017. That was my 7th movie. I was fresh out of film school. I'd done 6 films before I went to film school. That was my next film out of film school, The Tribunal. So that was the first time I worked with him. Then we had another cinema film called Mokalik.
Yes, I remember Mokalik.
Yeah. Then Anikulapo. So he called me and told me that, told me earlier that, oh, there's a role I'm going to play in it. So, and I enjoyed playing that role.
Tell me why.
Because, see, every opportunity that I get to be out there, I try to do things in a way that nobody else can. There's no role I've played up to date that anyone can say, oh, maybe this person could have been better for that role. I try to cement it. And so I get to play this deity, this keeper of the heavenly gates and all that. And you know, there were some, you know, there were lots of skirmishes and stuff that came out on Twitter that why should they use a white man? And some guy actually thought I was a white, like I was a proper white man, you know. And this is where inclusion comes from, because if you look at me and you see anything but a black man, then you're wrong. So on that, even though I'm fair skinned in that, I'm fair skinned being in that role.
But that was you.
That was me. That was a black man standing there.
Exactly.
You know, in a black world. So I enjoyed it, and I had a good time playing it.
I'm so glad. So what are you working on now? Because I'm excited for your next body of work.
All right. So we've got a couple of things coming out this year. We've done some work. We have a major action film, Hollywood standard, props, cinematic effects, cinematography, everything. It's going to be mind-blowing. We have the first Nigerian trailer coming out. It just premiered at Tribeca. It's by Trino Motion Pictures. Yes,
Name?
The only movie, The Weekend.
The Weekend, exactly.
The only movie.
I played that trailer. I was thinking, and I'm like, is it what I'm thinking?
The only movie out in Nigeria to be in Tribeca. It's coming to the cinemas. I think that should be.
Tribeca is currently ongoing in New York.
Yes, currently ongoing. So it's totally amazing, and I can tell you, Nigeria is not ready for the story and everything. Even we have shivers.
Who produced it?
So it's Trino Motion Pictures
and directed by
Daniel Oriahi.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I can't wait to see.
You shouldn't.
I can't wait to see. When does it come out?
I think that should be August. I think so.
Okay.
So
cinematic or
most likely will come to cinema first.
Okay.
So I'm not certain, but there'll be the announcement will come out.
That we all get to see it. Damilola, this has been such a joy. I felt like this is definitely a conversation that needed to be had today, and also for every kid out there who's always felt different, I wanted them to see that. Listen. This is it. This is proof that you are not different.
And I'm about to do something that's going to stun everybody.
Which is?
I'm starting a car show.
A car show?
Yes.
Okay. Let me. What are you going to be doing? Driving cars, selling cars, drifting? Don't drift.
Why not?
It's not safe.
No, it is safe.
It's not safe.
Hold on. The cars are controlled. The cars are controlled. You must know how to do it with the throttle. It's a throttle control thing.
Do you like cars?
I don't like cars. I'm obsessed with cars. If you follow me on social media, you would know. So I have this whole James Bond thing going on.
Yeah.
I have this whole car thing going on. I'm going to merge them at some point. So we're going to have our own Fast and Furious. But I'm actually coming, that same guy that people say, oh, does he see well, is now going to do a car show where he needs to see. And I can prove to the world that I can see, I can drive, I can drift.
You can break boundaries.
We're right in the production of that as I speak to you now. So that's my own project, and I'm really excited about it.
Congratulations. What's it going to be called?
Behind the Wheel.
Behind the Wheel.
So is
it going to be like a with Damilola or just Behind the Wheel?
It's Behind the Wheel with Damilola Ogunsi. My name has to be there. So
your name definitely has to be there.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. Again, emphasizing breaking boundaries. Thank you so much,
Damilola,
for joining me on the show today. And I hope this is as much awareness for you. But of course, you can head on to social media and see how the conversation continues on.